Well, hello and welcome, Marianne. We are super excited that you came in to say hello and to meet us.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited
Y-
to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's been great to get to know you in the community. I always say nothing is by chance. Everything is,
Mm,
there's a reason behind people bumping into each other.
mm,
There generally is and of course, in the diabetes community, we're bumping into a lot, but we connect with many, and you are one that I definitely connected with as soon as I started to chat with you. So I appreciate you being here, and you have a lot to share in your years with type 1 diabetes. So let's start at the beginning with your diagnosis and just share what you like about that experience and what you remember.
Sure. It's probably a lot of it is from stories, maybe, because I was 7 when I was diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to be honest, I don't know the exact day. I guess everybody's, has their diaversary, and I don't know the exact day, but I go by the year 1990. And, I from my mother's side, she told me that, well, the first initial, I guess, evidence of it was my parents went to a teacher conference and when I was in first grade. And my mom said that the teacher said that I was immature for my age. Mind you, I
Hmm.
was in first grade, so that's kind of an
Right,
interesting
right.
comment to say. But
Right. That's
my
it.
mom thought that was very interesting because I was the oldest in the house and I was very responsible. I cleaned the house, I took care of my sisters. So it just seemed odd that she said that. I was in my class, my cousins were in, and my mom decided to ask them what's going on in class. This is back when there wasn't like the communication they have between like a chat from the parents and the teacher. So you
Mm-hmm.
really couldn't be in the know back then. So they told her that I was falling asleep in class.
Mm.
So we all know, especially in the type 1 diabetes community, some of the signs are very, very like increased fatigue.
Sure.
I was also very thin, way thinner than I should be at. I think I weighed maybe 35 pounds in first grade, something like that. It was like I was very
Gotcha.
low in weight. And then the first initial step where they decided to like move forward with doing like a keto, do a urine strip or whatever. I went to an art festival with my mom. Anyways, long story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was proceeding to need to use the restroom, drink liquid, which mind you, at that time I wanted to drink Coca-Cola. So my mom kept buying me all these Cokes and which was probably not helping my blood sugars,
No, no.
but we didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
So I was going to the bathroom and drinking Coke the whole day. And my grandfather was an adult nephrologist. So my parents mentioned all the symptoms I was having. He said, go to the pharmacy and get keto strips. And so I took it, and of course the results turned into like high ketones.
Did that.
Went to the emergency room, and that's when I got diagnosed with type 1.
Okay.
So that was
Okay.
kind of the long-winded story, but it does really kind of paint a picture of like, especially in children, these symptoms. I think one of the stigmas is that, oh, well, did you eat a lot of sugar as a kid? Well, yes, I did eat sugar before, but it wasn't enough and we all know that doesn't affect someone's type 1
Right.
diagnosis. So
Right. Right. And it definitely doesn't cause it.
it does not.
I
No.
think that's the correlation. People think, oh, well, you must have eaten too much sugar. I know we've all heard that growing up. Or
Yes.
because a lot of us were diagnosed. I was a little older. I was 14, but that's so typical at 7, 6, 7 years old, where
Mhm.
kids do tend to eat a little bit more sugar or over whatever they can get their hands on, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's the correlation.
Now I hardly eat any sugar. Like I was obsessed with icing when I was a kid, and I couldn't even think about even touching icing right now.
Isn't it something? Yeah, thank goodness, right? As we know, it's not the best thing for us anyway,
No,
no matter what, right?
no.
Yeah. So how is now that you are, so fast forward, so that's, you're 36 years living with this.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of change, and I think that's going to be really kind of the motto or, just the mission of the show today. kind of the focus is going to be on change. And it's something we've talked about it here and there with different guests, because obviously we all experience change in life, and hormones is a big topic, as we know. So that is definitely something that we see the impact of. But I'm going to talk about not only your things like moving, and you're going to kind of let this go in your own story as you continue to share with us about who you are, what you're doing, and some of the things that have really affected you, because you are so intuitive. I picked up on that about how diabetes is affecting you, and all these changes have really impacted you. So I'm liking this idea that we can really focus on that, because we all go through change, and maybe there's not enough attention put on that for those of us who are also managing the disease along the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've gone through
Yeah.
a lot of changes. In the last 10 years,
Yeah.
it's been lots of things thrown at me. And yeah, and you have to navigate it all while managing type 1 diabetes, which is
Right.
difficult, but
Yeah.
it can be done.
Yeah. So give us what comes to mind first when you just talk about some of the changes that have come your way that you've had to face?
Well, specifically, I would say the biggest change, I would say in 2016, the end of my pregnancy, I was diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy, and that led
Mm-hmm.
to vision loss in my left eye and then low vision in my right. And this was due to having long-term diabetes, probably not taking care of myself in my 20s, and that probably led to like a bleed in the back of my eye, on
Mm-hmm.
top of not having any vision insurance. So I wasn't paying attention. Um, to the eye health. And mind you, what's funny is some of the things that I was told as a kid to watch out for and obviously to take care of myself was to eventually to take care of myself so that I wouldn't result in like losing a limb. So for
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
reason, my priority was always like taking care of myself, but focusing on not losing a limb, which is interesting.
That is
The
interesting.
eye
Yeah.
thing, surprisingly enough, wasn't top priority, and I think that's because of retinal disease, you don't actually see it,
Right.
it's not right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that on the back burner. And so cut to 2017, had to go through 4 eye surgeries, and my daughter was like a year old. And there was a lot of things that were, moving, and it was a lot at that time. So I think that was the biggest change in 2016 was navigating not only type 1 diabetes, but having to do it with low vision now.
Yeah.
So the first
Yeah.
few years were a little rough, especially because I was a new mom. And my mom passed at the end of 2016, right before I had my
Mm-hmm.
daughter. So it
Oh,
was also
wow.
even more challenging because I kind of lost that, support that I needed as far as, the relationship I had with my mom. So it was
Yeah.
a lot of things that happened all at once. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. I would say I'm kind of grateful for it because it made
Mm-hmm.
me rethink the way that I have my relationship with type 1. I kind of always tell people that are newly diagnosed, just say, like, instead of fighting against it, just like hold its hand, you know?
I like that. Yeah.
It's just
Absolutely. Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
years. It's like by the time I hit 20, I'd already had it for 13 years. So
Yeah.
it's burnout is a real thing. And so
Yeah.
I would say that was the like kind of the biggest change was 2016.
Right.
And that was quite a
Right.
bit that happened
Yeah,
at once.
understood. Yeah, understood. And I've shared here on this show that I was diagnosed with retinopathy as well. So it was 10 years after my diagnosis. I was mid 20s. And again, that was a long time ago. That was over 30 years ago. And obviously, our treatments were probably different. The timing of it was probably different. I wish I could hug you because I feel what you've gone through, and your result has been not as well as mine at this point. I was lucky to get the laser surgery. They sealed up the vessels basically. But I understand that relationship because I had about 10 plus years of, again, poor control. I didn't even know any different back in those days. Just poor control. I didn't have support with family, doctors. I didn't even have a glucometer in those 10 years, which is crazy, right? Think back, it's like, okay, well, but we can't change it. we can't reverse what we didn't do. And I love how you're saying that. Yeah, it is about just understanding what it is, why it happened. We understand the why, but we do have to make that mindset shift that this isn't going to be something that's going to drive it, that's going to kind of drive us down. How has that been for you in these 10 years? Again, that relationship with not only low vision, but the fact that you still have a disease that you have to manage every day. It's it's very inspiring. I know whatever you're about to say is just going to be inspiring because you continue to inspire me. That just the short time I've met you is just, your grace through all this.
Thank you for that. I
Mm-hmm.
try to be as graceful as possible, but sometimes it doesn't work out,
I know.
I guess, my best efforts. But well, like I said, the first few couple years, it was hard, and I
Yeah.
think, as a diabetic, you go back and you say, oh God, if I would have taken care of myself or prioritized my health. But
Yeah.
to be honest, when I got diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy, I was kind of in a good place with managing my diabetes because I wanted to get pregnant. And I knew that in order for me to get
Right.
pregnant and have an easier pregnancy,
Right.
not easier, but just like not as high risk pregnancy.
Right. Understood. Yeah.
I really prioritize lowering my A1C. And, you can go into the whole science around it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you look it up and people are more susceptible to getting these more advanced cases of diabetic retinopathy. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't say
Exactly.
that's clearly, resulting in not having good control, but they also say that even if you have, like, say you go from like an 8 A1C and you rapidly drop your A1C, that actually can affect the vessels in your retina. So that could be a factor where I might
Okay.
have dropped it too rapid. But anyways,
Yeah. I know.
all the things,
Right.
but I will say that the first couple years I did self-blame, and I was really hard on myself. But it's like you can't stay in that state for too long
Yeah.
because it's like
Mm.
you gotta start acting. You gotta start doing things. And like I said, I had a young daughter, so I couldn't be just moping around the house and feeling sorry for myself. I had to pick myself up and start thinking about what I was gonna do for the future. And it took me some time to
I bet.
kind of I mean it was just recently I started posting more and more about having type 1 and having low vision on my Instagram. So it took me some time to really go, this is what I want to do. I had to go through all these different phases before I got there. But the self blame is definitely every once in a while I have those moments, but it's far less. And that's probably because of therapy and other things.
So tell us about your trip to Denver. And this is part of the change. I can't, I've
Mhm.
been living in the same city here in Florida for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. And I appreciate people we just got to know a couple here in town that just moved here.
Mm.
And it's a reminder. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine relocating. And, you just want to hug them and bring them into all your social settings,
Yeah.
invite them here, invite them there, because you do that, without being too pushy, but, it's really welcoming. So what
Mhm.
was that like? And what was that transition like in all accounts, not only family, managing diabetes community? You mentioned that you started up a diabetes community. So apparently you're kind of getting into the community there. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's been really, really nice. We had an opportunity to rent our home in Florida. So we took it as an opportunity to kind of pick up and move somewhere that
Mhm.
was kind of out of the comfort zone, I guess you could say. My husband and I lived in South Florida for our entire lives. So we're talking 43 years.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my husband were born in the same hospital. And
Wow.
both my parents were born and raised in Florida.
Oh, wow. A lot of connection.
So, and that's really hard in Florida. It's like not hard, but not many people, especially their parents, were born in Florida too.
Yeah, that's so true. It's true. Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, so we just needed a change and it was a big transition. It was, obviously family lives there and they were sad to see us go, but I think we've all kind of, uh, I guess, got accustomed to it. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a little stubborn. So so I'm like, well, we're going to do it. So everybody's going to have to be on the same page
Yeah. I like
eventually.
that.
But yeah, it's been great. The community here, the neighbors. I mean, I live in what's really nice is we live in a very walkable neighborhood.
That's
And we've
nice.
met so many families and friends. I have a friend across the street that has been so supportive. Me and her ride to the school, and we don't even have to drive to the school. It's a 10-minute
Mm,
walk, but we've been
mm,
driving recently. But she takes me, my daughter, and her daughter to school every day. And we do pick up, drop off. So that's been super nice. But like I
nice.
said, we live in a walkable neighborhood, so I can walk to the place I work out. I can go get a cup of coffee. I
Nice.
can walk to
Nice.
my doctors. We can walk to my daughter's dentist and so
Mm,
many restaurants and parks near us. So that's been really nice for the sake of the fact I don't drive. So
yeah.
that's been a big game changer. And as far as the type 1 diabetes community, I think people just like to get out and do things here. I'm just a little more active.
Hmm.
I find that a little bit more community driven so far in Denver. I feel like in Florida, people, unless you're part of a sport or, or like work colleagues in that environment, kind of stay in their lanes and
Yeah.
not much community engagement. So
Hmm.
that's been really nice. So that's kind of been a change of ours.
So this is obviously a new terrain that you and your body and your kind of the situational. So what is the vision? I know you and I have personally talked about this off camera. It fascinates me what you are able to do within the vision limitations. If you
Mhm.
could just kind of paint, and I want to ask you about your new position as well. There's a lot of
Mhm.
fun things coming in that you're sharing today because I know you're connected with Diabetes Tutor,
Yeah.
which we've had Stormy Baxter on here. She was a
Mhm.
guest in here a little over a year ago, and so I'm excited to learn that connection. But just to kind of recap what, or I should say, just kind of look closer at really what your day to day is like right now. It still amazes me again how resilient we can be no matter what is tossed our way. Yeah. And you're just proof of that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I try to do my best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, day to day, I do anything that
Anything else?
everything that pretty much everybody else does. Wakes up, well, I mean, besides checking my pump and making sure that I give myself that insulin right when I wake up, because we all know that
Yeah.
thing, which is lovely because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I forget and then I'm like, oh, my blood sugar is 180. Oh, great. So, I do everything that everybody does when they have kids. They wake them up, and thankfully, my daughter is getting to the point where she sleeps in her bed. She wakes up, she gets dressed.
Independent.
We're on a good pathway to independence with her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really nice. But I get breakfast together, I get myself together. So we do drop off at school. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we drive. My friend will drive, or my husband, if he's not working, will drive her.
Gotcha.
And then I get back home and I start working. Low
Yeah.
vision, I still have vision in my right eye. It's like 20/90. And then there's light perception in my left eye.
Okay.
So I use tools like ZoomText on my computer, high contrast, like a larger font, like keyboard, I
Yeah.
guess you
Okay.
could say. It's a
Okay.
ZoomText keyboard. I'm getting a little more familiar with voice to text, so that's nice. But
Yeah.
other than that, I just work from
Yeah.
home and
Yeah.
we try to get out. The only challenge I would say in my life is nighttime, because nighttime, my vision gets worse. I can't see much at night. I have
Okay.
a definite night blindness, which makes sense because I have a retinal disease and,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
light coming from the back of your
Reflection.
eye. So when
Yeah.
it's dark, you can't see that. So I
It's less
try
light.
to, like, I hate this time of year where it gets really dark early, but other than that, I think that's the biggest challenge. When I cook, I'm a clean. I think you learn. Yeah, I tell people that, it's interesting enough, even when you have low vision, as a sighted person, you think you do things using your vision. Obviously driving and things like that, you use your vision for, but
Sure.
there's a lot of things that you use more muscle memory than anything. So
It's true.
I still cook, clean, do all the
Yeah.
things and,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
And
Right. Your body knows it.
if I need my husband to help me or someone else, then I ask for it, you know? So
Mm.
that's the most important thing is that if you need help, ask for it.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. That's great advice, right? Don't be afraid
mhm,
to ask for
mhm,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's always somebody there to help you for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Okay, Marianne. Yeah, you were just kind of expressing your relationship now with not only this diagnosis of low vision and the relationship with that, and what are you seeing as far as people you're meeting, even family, your children. I can just imagine what their response, how they see you now, literally, right? The word see, or view you. Yeah, so what's that been like as far as a new change that you're having to?
Well, I'm thankful that I have a very supportive family. It takes adjusting, especially with a person that has a visual impairment, things aren't as easily, I can't find things as easily as I used to. I'm very dependent. I'm a very independent person. Like I handle a lot for someone who has a visual impairment, which is a good thing to know is that even
Mm-hmm.
during a time where life changes so much, especially people that their vision changes, like if they go through vision loss later on in life, and then even as a younger child, you have to acclimate to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful I live in a world where there's a lot of resources and also supportive family. But yeah, it did take some adjusting,
Yeah.
adjusting for all of us, including myself,
Yeah.
including my husband and my daughter. I do think I don't like to put a lot of pressure on her in helping, me, but she is getting at that age where she's showing more empathy and she's really helpful. Like she'll say, getting out of the car, she's like, "Oh, mom, be careful. There's a curve there." Or
She's
she's very helpful,
right. Right.
and I think people may look like, oh, that's putting a lot of pressure on a young child, but I also think it's at the same time, it's going to help her in the long run to be compassionate and empathetic towards people that,
Yeah.
especially people that live with disabilities.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my family has always been pretty supportive. I've had friends that really stepped in and helped me quite a bit. During the time when my daughter was really little, taking me to doctor's appointments, and because I can't drive. So I think that was the biggest challenge is the not driving at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
when you have a small child, you obviously have to do frequent doctor's appointments
Sure.
and take them to play dates. So that was challenging, but I'm thankful for that. And like I was saying, I'm grateful that I do still have some vision left. And it changed what I was saying before, it changed my mindset around type 1 diabetes and my management.
Yeah.
So it became more positive and more of like, it almost came like I don't know how to say it. I'm a little bit stubborn, and when people say, "Oh, well, you can't do that because of this, that, or whatever it may be," I'm like, "I could be wrong.
Watch me,
I'll
right?
do this," and I try not, and I do that for other people too. I
Mm-hmm.
try to
Mm-hmm.
motivate them, empower them to do things that maybe
Yeah.
people might not expect from them.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. We definitely tap into other strengths, because we all possess many different strengths. So your superpower, right? I kind of like that term because I mean, in some cases, and it's like you said, it's really, we can decide how we want to adapt to a change. And just like you said at the very beginning, we can either, allow it to bring us down or to kind of shift what we think about us and what's going on around us, or we can use it for the good, which is something I know it's a daily challenge for many of us. Sometimes we have those we're promised to have a tough day once in a while.
Right.
Sometimes it's tough weeks, but it really is just trying to put that in perspective. And, a lot of the things that I go through, like with my group coaching and the ladies I work with, is it's really just talking through it. It's just having somebody that gets it, that can relate. Walking away from those conversations doesn't mean it's fixed. It just means it was heard and it was understood. And and are you finding that support? Because you mentioned that you're really kind of getting into the community now. So you're using those strengths that you possess to reach other people, to turn something that has been been a something that's been a change in your life into something that's really got a positive outcome. So it is amazing what we can do with things that, in all appearances, seem to bring us down. Right?
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, well, the type 1 community is so large and there's so many of us, and everyone is super supportive. The majority of the people that I've met on social media have been, I think they thrive or they strive to have that community. So sometimes, especially when you're newly diagnosed, it does feel like you're isolated a little bit. I think having social media, I wish we had it when I was younger. I think it would have been awesome to interact or meet young kids that had type 1, because I knew maybe one when I was younger. So having that social media community is really important. And then also moving to Denver recently, I was able to do some type 1 diabetes meetups with adults that have type 1 diabetes, and that was really nice. Because you really get that everyone knows what's happening. Everybody's looking at their pump. Someone's beeping. Who is it? So you kind of have that understanding. I just having type 1 is very specific. You have to really understand how everything feels to know, to really know it. They need to have like a simulator of like a low blood sugar, of like a high blood sugar, so people can understand exactly what it is.
That's so true.
Like, people can be supportive and understand, like, if there's a low blood sugar or, you get a little irritable, like, oh, okay, I get it, or be supportive in that moment. But I think it's very important for type 1s to be communicative about it. I hid it for so long when I was younger. Like, I didn't want anybody to know, or I just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important for type 1 diabetics to be transparent about it, even when they're facing challenges during the day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I couldn't. Yeah, your experience and my experience were just so similar. Just that, and it was in an era. You were in the 90s. I was in the 80s, so it was even more. It was even more hidden as far as the resources and the communities. Gosh, again, it's not something we could change, but I think it just makes us appreciate more all that all the people we know and we can connect with. We went from one extreme to the other, didn't we? Now there's so many to connect with.
Yes. I mean, just food alone. I was going to say, just food alone. I mean, think about how many options did we have for sugar-free options or low-carb options back then? It was very little.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh, I just want them to make sugar-free pudding in the cups so I don't have to wait for it to be made in the package, and all these like little things. And my mom searching high and low for a place that sold sugar-free chocolate so that she could put it in my Easter basket, and it tasted like she said it tasted like X-Lax or whatever she said. So but now there's just, oh my God, there's so many options now that are fantastic. So
absolutely.
As I say, I'm lucky I got low vision and diabetes in the era that I did, because there's just so many developments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we say that a lot, both you and I probably. The people that we are meeting that are newly diagnosed. If there's ever a good time, now's a good time to be diagnosed. With just all the available tools and resources, and the community. Not to mention that. Yeah. So tell us about your trip to Denver, and this is part of the change. I can't. I've been living in the same city here in Florida for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. And I appreciate people. I just met, we just got to know a couple here in town that just moved here. And it's a reminder. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine relocating. And, you just want to hug them and bring them into all your social settings, invite them here, invite them there, because you do that, without being too pushy, but, it's really welcoming. So what was that like? And what was that transition like in all accounts, not only family, managing diabetes community? You mentioned that you started up a diabetes community. So apparently you're kind of getting into the community there. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's been really, really nice. That we had an opportunity to rent our home, so in Florida. So we took it as an opportunity to kind of pick up and move somewhere that was kind of out of the comfort zone, I guess you could say. My husband and I lived in South Florida for our entire lives, so we're talking 43 years.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my husband were born in the same hospital.
Wow.
Both my parents were born and raised in Florida.
Wow, a lot of connection.
So, and that's really hard in Florida. It's like not hard, but not many people, especially their parents, were born in Florida too.
Yeah, that's so true. It's true. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, so we just needed a change, and it was a big transition. It was, obviously family lives there and they were sad to see us go, but I think we've all kind of, I guess, got accustomed to it. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a little stubborn, so I'm like, well, we're gonna do it. So everybody's gonna have to be on the same page
Yeah, I
eventually.
like that.
But yeah, it's been great. The community here, the neighbors. I mean, what's really nice is we live in a very walkable neighborhood.
That's nice.
We've met so many families and friends. I have a friend across the street that has been so supportive. Me and her ride to the school, and we don't even have to drive to the school. It's a 10-minute walk, but we've been driving recently. But she takes me, my daughter, and her daughter to school every day, and we do pick up, drop off. So that's been super nice. But like I said, we live in a walkable neighborhood, so I can walk to the place I work out. I can go get a cup of coffee.
Nice.
I can walk to my doctor's. We can walk to my daughter's dentist, and so many restaurants and parks near us. So that's been really nice for the sake of the fact I don't drive. So that's been a big game changer. And as far as the type 1 diabetes community, I think people just like to get out and do things here. I'm just a little more active.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a little bit more community driven so far in Denver. I feel like in Florida, people, unless you're part of a sport or, or like work colleagues in that environment, everybody tended to kind of stay in their lanes and not much community engagement. So that's been really nice. So that's kind of been a change of ours. But
Yeah.
so
Do you have
far-
any? Yeah. Do you have any advice for somebody? Say, whether it's moving. I think moving would be just like I just mentioned before. You started to share. Is we get so used to not only our environment, our home, obviously the friendships. So what's been the biggest shift, and how has that made living with diabetes and low vision? So how has that shifted? It sounds like the walkable areas has really been a game changer. Was that something specifically that you sought out as far as a community to live in? Yeah, that makes sense.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's my husband drives to work, but he doesn't drive. I mean, besides driving to work, he doesn't have to drive as much as he had to before. Like he walks to the barber shop to get his hair done. So little things like that make it worse. Or even just if he does have to drive everything, there's a lot of things within 5-minute drive of us.
Really, Nicole. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say go for it. I would say if you have the ability to, I would say, life is short. Me and my husband are getting older. Our daughter is 9, so we felt that she was at that age where we could still move her and she can adjust, and she's done really well with adjusting. Occasionally she'll say, "Oh, I miss Florida," but she has a lot of new friends. She's doing a lot more than she did in Florida, and that's probably because we're being a little bit more ambitious with getting her more involved here than we did in Florida. But I would say to someone, try to do your best to get all your ducks in a row. We had to do a lot of work on our house, not a lot of work, but little maintenance things before renting our house. And I'm a very much to-do person, which my husband probably doesn't like as much because he's the to-doer. I have the list.
Get it. Right.
Oh, but I know because I have a real estate. I have a real estate background, so I know what needs to be done to set things up for rentals. So it's kind of but I mean, we came and visited last December in Denver, and we moved here by mid-May. So when I make a decision, I move quickly.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I
but it's
love it.
been, to be honest, I will say the biggest thing besides type 1 diabetes, I've had type 1 for so long, so I've kind of learned
Mm-hmm.
how to navigate that through many life changes. The biggest thing was in Florida because I knew a lot of new places and was very much, my muscle memory was very used to certain places we went to, but it wasn't that way when we moved to Denver. So the biggest
Yeah.
change I would say as far as low vision goes is I use my cane everywhere I go. I didn't use my cane at all in Florida.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
now I
Yeah.
use my cane. And you know what? It was kind of a big step for me, but I walk more confidently when I use it. And so
Yeah.
that I think that was the biggest change is I use my cane now
Understood.
when I walk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's mainly for identification for other people. Mind you, like people still bump into me and walk in there because people aren't paying attention.
Right. Right. Imagine that.
But I think that was the biggest change.
Yeah, understood. So this is obviously new terrain that you and your body and your kind of the situational. So what is the vision? I know you and I have personally talked about this off camera. It fascinates me what you are able to do within the vision limitations. If you could just kind of paint, and I want to ask you about your new position as well. There's a lot of fun things coming in that you're sharing today because I know you're connected with Diabetes Tutor,
Yeah.
which we've had Stormy Baxter on here. She was a
Mhm.
guest in here a little over a year ago, and so I'm excited to learn that connection. But just to kind of recap or I should say, just kind of look closer at really what your day to day is like right now. It still amazes me again how resilient we can be no matter what is tossed our way. Yeah, and you're just proof of that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I try to do my best. Well, day to day, I do
Anything else?
everything that pretty much everybody else does. Wakes up, well, me, besides checking my pump and making sure that I give myself that insulin right when I wake up, because we all know that feet, feet to floor thing, which is lovely. Because sometimes I forget, and then I'm like, oh, my blood sugar is 180. Oh, great. So, I do everything that everybody does when they have kids. They wake them up, and thankfully, my daughter is getting to the point where she sleeps in her bed. She wakes up, she gets dressed. We're on a good pathway to independence with her. So that's really nice. But I get breakfast together, I get myself together, so we do drop off at school. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we drive. My friend will drive, or my husband, if he's not working, will drive her.
Gotcha.
And then I get back home and I start working. Low
Yeah.
vision, I still have vision in my right eye. It's like 20/90, and then there's light perception in my left eye. So I use tools like ZoomText on my computer, high contrast, like a larger font, like keyboard, I guess you could say. It's a ZoomText keyboard. I'm getting a little more familiar with voice to text, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But other than that, I just work from
Yeah.
home and
Yeah.
we try to get out. The only challenge I would say in my life is nighttime, because nighttime my vision gets worse. I can't see much at night. I have a definite night blindness, which makes sense because I have a retinal disease, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
light coming from the back of your eye. So when
Yeah.
it's dark, you can't see that. So I try
right.
to, like, I hate this time of year where it gets really dark early. But other than that, I think that's the biggest challenge. But I cook. I'm a clean. I think you learn. I think I tell people that, it's interesting enough, even when you have low vision, as a sighted person, you think you do things using your vision. Obviously, driving and things like that, you use your vision for. But
Sure.
there's a lot of things that you use more muscle memory than anything. So
That's true.
I still cook, clean, do all the
Yeah.
things, and
Right.
you
Right.
know, and
Right. I love it.
if I need my husband to help me or someone else, then I ask for it. So
Mm.
that's the most important thing is that if you need help, ask for it.
Mm. Yeah.
So
That's great advice, right? Don't be afraid to ask, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's always somebody there to help you, for sure.
absolutely.
So let's jump into your job. And before we go today, I know midlife over 40, because you're in your early 40s now. I really definitely want to share with the audience your experience so far as your hormones are shifting. But if you want to tell us a little bit about your job with Diabetes Tutor, we'd love to hear about that. We highlight them. It's a really good thing. Yeah, they're doing some good things at that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I interviewed for a role last year. And the person that they picked is actually my manager. He's been amazing. And I've been training for the past month, almost a month now. But I just kept in communication with the woman that interviewed me. And I just, just asked her anything coming up. And was at the end, no, right before Thanksgiving, she reached out to me and I interviewed with her and the HR manager. And I accepted the role the day before Thanksgiving. He called me and offered me the role, and I said yes, right there. But it's an HR coordinator role for my diabetes tutor, which is great because not only is it because I went to Barry University and completed my bachelor's degree the end of last year, and a lot of the classes and the courses that I took were mainly leadership and HR centered courses. So I started, and I had a lot of work experience already in kind of aspects of HR. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should start looking into HR.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been working in a telehealth company for the past 2 years. And when I got hired with my diabetes tutor, it aligned really well at the time. Everything happens, I guess, for a reason, as cliche as it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But it just happened at such good timing. But it's a great company so far.
Yeah. What do they do there?
A lot of growth.
Just to kind of,
So it's providing virtual diabetes education to people across the. I think we are trying to expand outward to like the entire country.
Okay.
But it's great because it's, providing the accessibility that many of us in the diabetes community need, especially with diabetes management and diabetes education.
Mm-hmm.
We have a program in, training on pumps and CGMs.
Yeah.
Obviously, dietary needs and kind of structuring that lifestyle, because obviously there's a lot of people that are diagnosed later on in life. So you have your own, I guess your your understanding of how you eat and how you manage your health, and then all of a sudden you get diagnosed with diabetes and you have to kind of do a lot of changes to keep yourself healthy. But it's great, providing access to diabetes care that so much of us need.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
It's been a really
outside
good
the endo
experience.
office, right? Yeah. That's definitely something we can all appreciate because, the endo is good. We say, the endo runs the labs. They say, they give you a thumbs up, thumbs down, give you a little feedback, but that's generally all we really can get from an endo's office in a short time. So, and there's so much more, and we're always changing. We're dynamic with our ages and stages, moving, all the different things. And you mentioned something too that is so, so important is the late diagnosis. I'm meeting so many women, specifically in my circle, all ages. So it's not a juvenile disease anymore. So yeah, talk about change, right? Suddenly you're faced with this chronic disease and your life just did a detour, a major detour. So yeah, there's some help with that for sure. So it's great what they're doing. And we'll be sure to link Diabetes Tutor here too. Anytime that I can point.
It's amazing. What they're doing is really amazing. We had a all hands on deck meeting last night, and we're learning about all the new programs that are being implemented. So a lot of really awesome things coming down the pipeline with that. But I'm glad to be a part of it. I've always wanted to work for a company that obviously pertains to where I want to go in my career, but has a mission that I'm aligned with. And obviously I align well with diabetes because I have a personal lived experience with it. So I see big things happening for it.
That's
I also
really
have a lot of
good.
ideas, so I'm like,
Nice,
I need to get
nice.
past I need to get past the portion, so I get bombarding people with my ideas.
Right, right. Write them down and know
Yes, I
when to
do.
bring them up, right?
Exactly.
So speaking of another change, so tell us how your fleas are suddenly feeling different, maybe looking different on your data. So yeah, what's happening with you right now as perimenopause is knocking?
Oh my goodness. So when I got closer to 40, I was definitely noticing more insulin resistance, even though I was on a pretty low carb diet. I
Yeah.
started eating low carb when my vision started changing. It just helped me manage it better. So I definitely experienced more insulin resistance. I think around the age right when I turned 40, in that year that I turned 40, I noticed that I started gaining weight. Like I gained like 15 pounds in a year. And, and then all the obvious hormonal things that were happening to me.
Okay.
All the things like when you look up like perimenopause, I was like, maybe I have perimenopause,
Yeah.
but I haven't really, went into like figuring it out.
Yeah. Just trying to put it all together. Yeah, for
Yeah, but
sure.
I did notice those
Yeah.
changes. One of the things that my doctor helped me get was I started taking Manjaro, which was
Okay.
helpful because that helps with the insulin resistance. And
Yeah.
I was able to lose that 15 pounds that I had gained. So, and I've been able to maintain. I take it
Okay.
for the insulin resistance mainly, not for weight loss right now,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been able
Mm-hmm.
to maintain my weight with just my diet and
Okay.
exercise. And
So far
but
that's
I think that
working.
was the
Yeah.
biggest thing I noticed was the insulin resistance because I was
Yeah.
taking very little insulin every day, and now I'm like, oh, it's starting to creep up again,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have more highs than I did before. I don't know what it was. I guess maybe the hormonal change, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, there's three things that we tend to notice, and I'm learning more and more. It's been a while since I was in perimenopause. Matter of fact, perimenopause really wasn't even a term but back when I had it. We're
I
hearing a
know.
lot more about that
I
pre.
know.
Yeah, it's
And then
crazy, which is great.
you say it
Yeah,
out
say it
into
out
the
loud,
world,
right?
and your algorithm on your social media changes, and you get nothing but stories about perimenopause, which I'm
Yep.
like, okay, I guess maybe I do have it.
It's pretty bad when your phone and your computer's talking to you, right? Yeah, I guess we need to hear what we need to hear. But yeah, resistance, insulin resistance, weight gain, and then sleep issues tend to be the three top, and they all kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah,
So yeah, and those things interrupt, and they all interrupt diabetes, and diabetes interrupts them. I always say there's such a correlation, and it's one of the things that really the medical and even our endos do, because the endocrinologists study the hormonal systems, but the one system they're not really looking at is the reproductive. So there's a
right.
disconnect there. So we really got to educate ourselves. That's definitely what we try to do here on the show. So we'd love to hear this confirmation from women like you in your early 40s. It's like,
Mhm.
things are starting to change a little. Yeah. Yeah. So the Manjaro's helping with
Yes.
some of that, so that's good during that transition. Yeah. Is there anything else that you are noticing? Do you track symptoms specifically, or do you feel like right now there's really nothing new to really kind of pay attention to as far as what might be hormonally driven?
Well, I definitely, now that you mentioned it, I do definitely have sleep issues. And
Okay.
I'm trying to wean myself off melatonin, but I take that at night. I want to find other ways. I don't know how to necessarily take it every day. But I make a list for my endocrinologist, like, all the changes that happen that we can maybe find some sort of, not treatment, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of plan to take care of the sleep. I want to look into other things like more like faster acting insulin, maybe like
Okay.
inhaled insulin, I think is very
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah, definitely the sleep issue.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cold all the time. I probably need to get my iron checked. I have hypothyroidism, so I take
Okay.
medication for that every day.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Because
so
that's tied to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're bringing up some. I appreciate you coming in and just kind of sharing and talking through this. It's real important because this is what I hear as well, and it's just so important that we're naming it and we're saying, hey, this is different. I think that's why it's important too for each of us to pay attention to what our baseline is. So I love that you're going to the doctor, you got a list, and it's like, this is not what
Yeah.
I was feeling 6 months ago. And then sometimes they'll push back and say, well, we'll keep an eye on it. But I think that's another example of just knowing when it's causing friction in your life and with your diabetes care. So yeah, I appreciate that. That's really good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm very vocal in my doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
Some of them I'm like, ugh, I don't like to go to my vision appointments because there's no cure for it. So it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, what's happening? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
But my diabetes, like that's a daily management thing. So I like going in with like questions and I do talk in my vision appointments, but those are boring.
Sure. Understood.
But the endocrinologist appointments it's interesting enough, the place that I go to here is called the Barbara Davis Center. It was the first time I ever walked into an endocrinologist appointment, and there was multiple staff members there that have type 1, including the provider that I saw. So I thought, oh wow, this is like new territory for me, and so it was kind of nice. I think it's kind of probably would have been a bad thing when I was younger and I wasn't managing my diabetes as well because I couldn't hide as much. They would be like, I don't know about that, but
They know what to second. That's
the majority of
interesting.
the time,
Yeah.
the majority of the time they're like, wow, you're doing really good. Like I've had my endocrinologist in Florida, we did only virtual appointments because my management was so well. And she's like, on paper, you don't even have diabetes. And I'm like, oh, I cured myself.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I've really enjoyed so far my experience over there.
That's
But
really good.
I heard that perimenopause, your ears itch. That's a
There
thing.
are, there
Yeah, I
are,
think that's a weird thing that I have is
yeah,
the ear itching. It's like I'm
yeah, yeah.
constantly itching. I'm like, oh,
Yep, that's definitely part of it. There's 35 written symptoms that I've seen. It's gone up. There used to be, I don't know, 20 something. Now there's 35. I've seen that there's over 100, so we can really kind of dig into all these things that are just hormonally based.
yeah,
Yeah, itchy ears. It's basically dryness. So when
yeah,
estrogen's dropping, and it might be cycle based for you. Different times of the month with
that
estrogen's
makes
dropping.
sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely. I had dry.
Mm,
I had a lot of things that I didn't even know was hormones. I just thought I had dry eyes. It's like because nobody mentions anything else. So it's like, okay, so take some omega-3s, and I guess that helped a little bit, but nothing really helped until I got on hormone replacement. So that's another added bonus for sure. We can just
yes,
kind of
I want to
replenish.
learn more about that because
Yeah.
I'm curious when I see my. Actually, I wonder if I should talk to my endocrinologist about that. But I can see
Yeah,
my
you can bring it
PCP
up.
for that
Yeah,
because there
absolutely.
is breast cancer in our history. My mom had it, and so I know there's always like that like question about it.
Yeah.
But I would like to actually see how beneficial it would be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Something that you've been through quite the journey and you're still so young, right? Well, we're all still so young, right? We got years left managing this. But as far as any sort of new health challenges that women here listening may come across, you're obviously living it and we appreciate that and life changes and all the things that come our way. And just what does thriving with type 1 diabetes mean to you today? Yeah, what does that
Oh,
mean to you right now?
to answer the first
Yeah.
question, I would say that I think when you're on the outside, you look at my situation, you go, oh, I couldn't handle that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't, I don't know how you could do that. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
But when you're in the position, it's either you have to or you just, like I said, I didn't want to mope around. I had to I had to use my positive mindset to get myself going and, basically move on with my life. I think it can be challenging when you're dealing with a diabetes diagnosis or low vision or a loss in your life, a loss of a job or a person or,
Yeah.
kind of a transition of your life. And it looks a lot different
Yeah.
because I feel like people grieve through a lot of different processes.
Yeah.
But I think, you can handle it. You might imagine that you can never do it, but you can. And I'm on the other side of all that adversity, and I feel like I do pretty well and have a good mindset. And I just try to focus on the future and get myself there. I probably focus too much on the future. I try to be a little more present nowadays.
Yeah.
Thriving, like I said, hold diabetes, like hold type 1 diabetes hand, and kind of know, and also know that every day is not going to be perfect. You're probably going to have roller coasters, but give yourself some grace and understand that, life isn't perfect. Your numbers aren't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just try to navigate that as the best that you can. I feel for the kids that have type 1, because I was there, and you're really learning, and then as a parent now, I kind of see the point of view of my parents having to take care of a child with type 1. You don't want to see your kids sick or ill or dealing with hard things, because, there's obviously different phases of having type 1 as a child. You get it as a young child, then you want to grow into like your own person as you get older, as a teenager, but you still have to manage a disease that's incurable and chronic. And then you get into your 20s when you really want to live your life and not have to worry about it as much. But it's still there. And I think just understanding that, things don't need to be perfect all the time, and just take care of yourself and go to your doctor's appointments. I hated going to the endocrinologist when I was younger.
Yeah.
But now that they have so many amazing technology, I think having access to insulin and diabetes tech for everyone is important. I think people struggle with that. I know that I was in a position in my 20s when I didn't have health insurance, and they still had pre-existing conditions to get health insurance.
Right.
So I've been there where I've had to ration insulin, and it's not a good feeling at all.
No, understood.
So,
yeah.
But I think thriving with diabetes is just taking it day by day, and just remembering it's not going to be perfect all the time.
There you go. Amen to that. That's right. That's right.
Hopefully I answered that good. Hopefully it was inspiring enough.
No, I appreciate you. So how can our listeners connect with you, Marianne?
Well, I just use Instagram to post about my experience with type 1 and low vision. Also, I post things about, transitioning, moving from Florida to Denver. But, and I just changed my handle for my Instagram, but it's called Owning T1D with MA. So, and MA obviously is my initials, Marianne. Yeah, you can interact with me on there, and I post things. I post silly videos of me and my daughter, which she loves to do. But I just post a lot of educational things that I know on my end, because I like to say I'm a subject matter expert without a medical degree, so I don't necessarily have all the knowledge about the science behind type 1, but I do have 36 years of lived experience.
Yes.
So
that's pretty golden.
Yeah. I kind of understand it.
I feel you on that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, thanks again for taking time to come in here and for our listeners to get to know you. And I'll for sure be linking your connected handle right here in the show notes, so people can reach out and stay in touch. So thanks again, and be sure to share this show with somebody this would resonate with. I'm sure there are many. And have a fabulous day. We will be back in here next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.